Chapter 188. In regards to his status as the son-in-law of the Richard family, this group of people had never treated him as one of them. They did not even bother about Alex at all. Trump was the only one who would put up with their attitude simply because he was affectionate and cared about family ties. Moreover, Emma had always been bullied. The entire Richard family had always despised Emma because of her position as the director of Diamond Group. Therefore, the Richard family had always been trampling all over his family. They had always been bullied. Alex had always turned the other way for his wife's sake. He had endured their bullying for a long time, but he really did not expect this group of people to be so shameless. He would never have expected them to try and snatch his villa away from him. "Alex, how dare you talk to Grandma in that manner?" Harold yelled angrily at Alex. "I have to teach you a lesson today." "Do you really think that is up to you?" Alex snorted before he said contemptuously, "Harold, to me, you are nothing but a bug that cannot even be compared to an ant." Presumptuous. Lady Richard suddenly stood up as she yelled, "Alex, if you kneel down and beg for my forgiveness as well as hand the villa over to me, I will forgive you this time. Otherwise, I will ask Emma to divorce you immediately before driving you out of the house so that you can die on the streets." At this time, Emma, who had been keeping her head down all this while, suddenly raised her head and stood in front of Alex protectively before she said, "I refuse to do so. Are you my grandmother, or are you the patriarch of the Richard family? You have always been oppressing and mistreating my father, bullying my husband, Alex, and you have never once treated my family like your own family. I will never divorce Alex. You." Lady Richard was extremely furious, and she pointed her finger at Emma before she yelled at Trump, "Look. Look at how your daughter has turned out. Is this how you educate your daughter? I want her also to kneel and beg for my forgiveness." At this time, Trump slowly raised his head as he glared at Lady Richard. Trump had a very dissatisfied expression on his face. Harold's father was stunned for a moment because his younger brother had always been very meek and submissive. Moreover, he had always given in to his own wife. Throughout his entire life, Trump had never dared to talk back to his mother, but this time, he was actually glaring at his mother with such a contemptuous expression on his face. Harold's father yelled sharply, "Second brother, why don't you hurry up and tell your daughter and son-in-law to kneel and beg for mother's forgiveness so that she can calm down?" Trump, who had always been very timid, was suddenly very bold as he said, "Brother, someone gave the villa to Alex. He can do whatever he wants with it. Moreover, how is it any of your business who my daughter is married to? Who gave you the right to control our lives? That villa is worth more than $200 million. It is worth more than all the assets owned by the Richard family. What gives you the right to occupy it? You are a useless son." Lady Richard was trembling in anger, and she grabbed the teacup in her hand before throwing it directly at Trump. Trump did not hide or dodge, but instead, he simply stood still. The teacup hit his head before it fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. The tea dripped all over his face and body as he stood there motionlessly. "Dad," Emma cried out loud, and her eyes flushed red. She could tolerate it if anyone tried to humiliate her, but she would not tolerate it if anyone humiliated her father. Trump stood still as the tea flowed down his head, and after that, he raised his head before he said coldly, "Mom, if there is nothing else, we will go back first." After he was done speaking, he looked at Alex and Emma who were standing next to him before he said, "Let's go." After that, he turned around and walked toward the door without looking back at all. Emma wiped the tears off her face and glanced bitterly at the people in the living room before she turned around and walked away without any hesitation whatsoever. Alex did not even bother looking at the crowd of people. Instead, he simply turned around and left without saying a word. Harold's father was so furious that he felt as though he was about to explode.